And we're actually a minute early. Good morning, everyone. Angry Old Hoops and Sports and Fitness Rants. We're coming at you early on this Sunday morning. We got a full day of ranting on this. What is this? The 15th?
15th. Yes, sir. That's right.
And I just finished my morning jog. Actually, cut it off early to get back for this, and I was listening to you, so I'm all wound up and angry and ready to complain.
I love it, man. And like I said, man, good morning to everybody out there. We're going into the afternoon over here on the East Coast. So good afternoon to anybody rolling in from the East Coast. Like I said, man, anyone coming into the chat. I know we're starting a little early on the Sunday show, man, but we're going to roll right into the Sunday show. My man dissolved the video footage, and we're going to do it. You guys know the deal, man. Let's roll.
Yeah, it might be a little bit too early for some people on the West Coast, being a Sunday. I've been up for 5 hours. Yeah, speaking of footage, you were complaining about the 3-point shooting and big men taking 3-point shots. And part of that breakdown I was doing of LeBron's assists, there was the one example where he was standing underneath and threw the ball away, and he just continued to stand there. So he was in position to get the rebound. But another huge problem is that Trae Young, who got the steal, instead of taking advantage of the opportunity to come down with his teammates and drive the hoop and then kick to a teammate, just got across half court and chucked it.
Chucked it up.
And obviously he missed, or LeBron James wouldn't have been able to get a rebound. But that brought me to thinking about how many times I see these guys miss. Like, they miss a lot. And this is supposed to be the 3-point shooting era. It's barely fun watching them make them. It's really not fun watching them miss. So if you're going to abandon all other facets of the game for 3-point shooting, can you at least be good at it?
Right. And I think that's what it is. We talk about, I saw someone in the comments say that 3-point shooting didn't kill the NBA. And, they hate when people, try to say that. But it's not just necessarily the 3-point shooting that we're talking about. We're talking about the kinds of 3-point shots that they're taking. So when AOH just makes that statement about Trae Young, it's not necessarily that he took a 3-point shot. It's the kind of 3-point shot that he chucked up. The man got the steal in transition. Like you said, you have a 2-on-1 scenario here. You have an opportunity for an easier basket, a shot attempt closer to the rim. And what does he do? He chucks up not just a 3-point shot, he chucks up a shot from damn near half court. He's like 4, 5, 6, 7 steps behind the 3-point line. So it's not just 3-point shooting that we're talking about that's killing the NBA. It's the type of 3-point shots that we're alluding to.
Since people are still filtering in, let's go ahead and acknowledge some of our early viewers before we get too much deeper into everything. Good morning, Pavel. God damn, my resolution's terrible. Sorry, guys, I can't read this. Axe J, Isaiah, what's up? Cutting your early morning jog is crazy, man. It is. It's a beautiful foggy morning. I mean, it's cold and foggy. Great running weather. I actually had frost on this thing when I came back in the door. Things are weird here in California. There was just a tornado in Santa Cruz, but nothing's wrong, everyone. Nothing's wrong. Everything's fine.
Yeah, for real. Shout out to everybody in the chat that's coming through early morning. I know this isn't the normal Sunday time for us, but me and AOH wanted to bring it to you guys before we roll into the show later on with Dart and the rest of the fellas, man. So shout out to everybody that's come through, man, for real.
So let's see, what is it? Oh, Axe J says 3-point shooting didn't kill the NBA. Well, I'm not going to say that's
what I was responding to, AOH. That's the comment. But he understands. I think I saw him respond in the comments, what we were talking about, what we were alluding to.
Okay. My bad. Trey, top of the morning. Chip, natural immunity. Good morning, all of you guys. Geez. Wow, we got a lot of messages on here already. Good morning, everybody. We're glad that you're here with us. Hey, I'm going to compliment Giannis also. You were complimenting him for not taking threes. That's not what I was going to say, but it kind of is the same thing because I was enjoying watching him play like a big physical person. And that was entertaining basketball to me. I liked some of his dunks. I liked his moves to get to the basket. He had that incredible block. Yeah, good for you, Giannis. That's what I consider entertaining basketball.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, when I saw I was watching some of the game yesterday because it came on early in the day. They had the two games on yesterday, and like I said, that was what stood out to me with Giannis and the overall impact, like you said, that he has on both sides of the ball. That we know that Giannis can do. You know, unlike there's not really many people in the NBA over the last 5 seasons that can impact the game on both sides like Giannis can, and not only impacted on both sides, but impacted on both sides when it matters most. When we think about the plays that he was making in the NBA Finals that year against the Phoenix Suns, that was nothing short of spectacular. Not many people could make those kinds of plays in those moments. And what stood out to me is, like I said, the fact that he did not shoot any, I mean, he did not even attempt a three-point shot. That's what was really impressive to me because he had the impact on the game. He was at the free throw line and he was doing what he does on the rebounding wise, like I said, on the defensive end of the ball, and just being a leader out there and not shooting three-point shots in an era where we start seeing everyone trying to be like everybody else. So when we mentioned earlier about it's not necessarily just three-point shooting that's killing the game, but it's also everyone thinking that they should be shooting the threes. So when I say that, thank you for Giannis for now going out there and doing this. Through 2 or 3 seasons ago, Giannis was averaging about 4 or 5 threes a game. And to me, I remember that time when people were like, oh, look at Giannis trying to step out into the three-point line, and they were trying to congratulate him. Oh, Giannis is working on his game. He's expanding his game. And I was like, no, that's not his game. Giannis is never going to be a three-point shooter. He's never going to be a shooter, ever. You see his struggles at the free throw line. He just doesn't have that game. But guess what? That's okay. Giannis doesn't need that game to be effective. If he never shot another three-point shot in the rest of his career, he'll be just fine.
Yeah, and that leads me to Ant Edwards, whom you also mentioned in your stream this morning. Why do we, the fans, have to watch somebody develop their three-point shot? Like, you're a pro athlete. You should have made it to the NBA based upon your shooting ability. I don't want to watch you fucking develop. That's not what Anthony Edwards' game was. That's not what got people interested in him. Screw you and your sore hand bullshit. He better start dunking more. I mean, Adam Silver better start begging these guys to dunk more because this league is in serious, serious trouble. And I just want to rip on myself for a second. It's always been implied that, the evidence is there that you can't blame illegal streaming or illegal downloads. You can't just blame that. But the most obvious evidence, of course, is that other leagues are doing well, that their ratings are going up. Are people claiming that people are only pirating the NBA? People just decided the only thing we're going to pirate is the NBA, but everything else we're going to actually give legitimate ratings to. That would be an absurd argument, but that doesn't mean a LeBron fan wouldn't make it.
Right. I mean, and like I see some people in the comment section talking about other aspects of the NBA, of the current NBA, that's destroying the game. Along with, like I said, the excessive three-point shooting. You see the people talking about the flopping and the habitual amount of crying and whining that goes on during an NBA game. I want to let people know, and I think there's a lot of people out there that understand this, man. When we talk about, guys complaining about foul calls or, whining and things of that nature, we're not saying that players never complained. Every era, you could go back and watch film of Bill Russell and Will Chamberlain with weird looks on their face sometimes when they didn't get a call in their favor, or maybe they thought there was a call that they didn't get, or whatever the case may be. It's the manner in which these guys do we've never seen someone do it to the level like LeBron James did those couple of years ago against the Boston Celtics. It's the manner in which these guys do it. They don't do it with a certain level of manliness. Everything that they do comes across as a selfish and self-entitled baby, almost as a child, or it's very feminine to me when these guys are moaning and they're crying and they're flopping around and they're carrying on the way they are. There's no real manly energy in this kind of stuff. So when we talk about the games and, you can't watch this because everyone on the team is doing it.
A lot of these shot attempts, you can tell that it's going to be a flop. You can tell as he's going into the shooting motion that the goal is to get a call. And they don't get the call, and they go straight from the flop motion to the complain motion. And we all associate LeBron with that, but it's not just him. I saw Shea do it a few games ago. It was in the highlights, and goddamn, that's in the highlights.
And see, and like you said, that goes on the star. See, when people try to say, oh, that has nothing to do with LeBron James, or why are you guys talking about LeBron James over here, over there? Once again, if you're the face of the league, if everyone is looking up to you as the face of the league, and let's make no mistake about it, LeBron James has been advertised and celebrated and promoted as a face of the league for the last 20 seasons now. Even when he shouldn't have been promoted as the face of the league, they still continue to promote him when they should have been promoting other guys. But when you're going to promote someone that way, there comes a certain level of responsibility and culpability there. So when we talk about accountability, it's not just about on the court, but it's about what you're doing and what you're showing the other players to do. When we talk about Kevin Durant making that move to Golden State, you think he would have made that move if LeBron James never made the decision? He would have never felt the need to do that, or he would have never had enough balls to make that move on his own, but he saw the leader LeBron James do it, and he did it. When you talk about SGA, and we talk about Luka Doncic, and I made a video about Luka Doncic a couple of weeks ago, and I said he's becoming the European version of LeBron James out there. And what am I talking about? It's not necessarily the all-court game of Luka Doncic being similar to LeBron James or their play styles or anything like that. It's about the overall feeling I get watching Luka Doncic when every single time he doesn't get a call, the man's like this, he's like that, he's whining, he's moaning, he's flopping around, he's carrying on. But at the same time, Luka Doncic will always talk about how easy the NBA is compared to the European League now. So if that's the case, why are you crying and moaning and flopping up and down the court at such a high level? You know why he's doing that? Because he watched LeBron James do it.
Let me ask viewers something. Did you guys see the Chris Paul ejection, the double technical? And what do people think about that? Because a few things. What Chris Paul was ejected for compared to what LeBron James doesn't get teed up for is a topic in itself. But also what Chris Paul was complaining about.
That's like a great point.
The fact that you got ejected because of that non-call, I mean, it didn't look like much to me. I'm struggling to decide whether it's a foul on any level. Did you see it?
I was going to say, I did not see it. I heard about the ejection, but I did not actually see the play.
Go ahead, viewers. Please let us know what you thought about the Chris Paul ejection. And did you zoom in on the foul? It looked like an attempted steal, but maybe a little bit of a wrapping on Chris Paul. But I mean, Jesus, that's like calling holding in the NFL. You could do it every play.
No, but you made a great point there, though, about the double standard as it relates to the lack of technical fouls, or once again, any accountability for the actions of LeBron James on the court. And when you talk about Chris Paul, this is not some, newer player in the league that maybe doesn't have the cachet, you know what I'm saying, or the standard, of a LeBron James. Chris Paul's been around the league for a long time. He's a veteran. He's respected in the league. This guy was the president of the Players Union. I don't know if he still currently is, but the man's been around. He knows some things. So you would think that there would be a certain level of respect that Chris Paul would have earned throughout the years. You know what's interesting? Chris Paul's been around, and I'm not a huge Chris Paul fan, but when you talk about Chris Paul and how many years he's been playing in the league, and we all know about Chris Paul's postseason failures and his lack of, durability when it matters most. But if you think about his overall career, the man's still playing in the NBA and is still a quality point guard at this point in time of his career, man. But they never talk about Chris Paul's longevity or any of the numbers, the longevity numbers that Chris Paul's put up. He literally just passed Jason Kidd, I believe, for a second all-time on the assist list. I heard no one talking about these things. They might have mentioned it, but it was a cliff note, and these are things that we're talking about.
Let me read a super chat. This is from John Petit, $9.99 USD. Thank you. If you want to fix the NBA, you take out the 3-second rule, put in hand checking, and it will fix itself. Teams would have to run plays and post up to score and not just shoot threes. I mean, that would go a long way. How much do you think that would help?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. What I say a lot of times on my channel when these videos, and we talk about the rule changes, so to speak, I always tell people the rule changes have definitely taken away from the physical nature, the competitive nature of the game, but also at the same time, it should have never changed the mentality, the approach of the players. So when we talk about the lack of consistency and we talk about the overall effort or lack of, the rule changes should have no effect on the effort of the players. Sometimes you watch these guys. I'm not talking about, I'm talking about the superstar players. Sometimes these guys, they're not out there. Either they're not out there, or when they are out there, they don't look like they really want to be out there. They're going through the motion, so to speak. So absolutely, if they brought in hand checking, if they were to take away some of these other rules, or once again, not necessarily enforce those. See, you know what's funny? They have traveling, they have dribbling rules or violations written in the rule book, but for some reason they don't enforce those rules. So it's not necessarily about the rules being on the books, it's about the enforcement of those rules. So if you think about this, think about the real world scenario, for example, the police could enforce a lot of rules, right? There's a lot of little rules on the books that people don't really realize in the world when you talk about laws and things of that nature, traffic violations. But do they arrest or do they actually pull you over for all these little minor things? No, if you're doing 57 miles an hour over a 55-mile-per-hour speed limit, you're technically speeding, but are you going to be pulled over? So no. So certain things are not enforced a certain way. So if they're not going to enforce the traveling or the parking violations that way, then why should they be enforcing some of these other rules? So even if they had a freedom of movement rule, don't enforce it. Sometimes you'll hear people say, oh, back in the day, they didn't have zones. Or back in the day, they couldn't do X, Y, Z because it was a rule. Yes, that may have been true. They may have called illegal defense at certain times in the 90s. But we're talking about the consistency and the regularity of which they were doing this. They weren't calling it so much so that they weren't running it. Teams ran zones. It wasn't because it was illegal. They ran zones. So once again, man, there's a bunch of things that we could do. It's a mindset and approach of these guys.
I think did I hear Adam Silver? Somebody was explaining the rule changes and they wanted to open up the court. They wanted to open up movement, which means make it really easy. But the sad thing is that they made it easier and then still called fouls more closely. So it's like you're giving people an open lane, and if anybody challenges it significantly, then it's going to be a foul call. I mean, it's almost like saying, here, go to the hoop. There's almost no consequences whatsoever. Just try, either get barely touched and you'll go to the free throw line, flop and you'll go to the free throw line. Or the other thing that's not fun to watch, nobody will contest you and you'll get a layup. Or you might still miss, like LeBron James.
Right. Yeah, I mean, see, those are all the things that we're alluding to, that it's like I said, it's a combination of things, man. The 3-pointers, all the things that we've been mentioning, it's a combination of that. We talk about, they said, these guys complaining on the court, and how you said the double standard. So you have one guy out there who they're promoting, once again, as the franchise of the face of the league, but you don't hold this guy to any standard. So what does that say, and what does that do for the league? It's an embarrassment. The standard,
he's a treasure. He's a treasure.
That's right. He's a treasure to the league.
I went absolutely ballistic on Stephen A. Smith in the members section. I didn't even bother releasing it because it was so filled with curse words. But that guy wants to have it both ways. He wants to be a suck ass and then pretend to be a tough guy the very next word.
Right, exactly.
You don't get to be both, bro. Choose one. Sorry. Oh, and speaking of Stephen A. Smith, I saw that horrific shootout that he and the TNT guys did. I don't want to hear anyone in the comments ever try to talk trash that we aren't athletic enough to talk about sports. Did you see those guys? I can outshoot all of them right now. I can outshoot all of them right now. Now I know Kenny shot left-handed, but I might be able to beat him on that too.
Oh my goodness, man. Like I said, you know what that is? That's a gimmick. It's more gimmicks. Even the broadcasting has become gimmicky now. Everything is how many views can we get, or how many people can we get to laugh at us, or this or that. And you're right on the money when you talk about Stephen A. Smith and the double speak. And that's for a lot of these guys. That's why they have no integrity, because they're trying, remember, Stephen A. Smith is the guy that came up with the whole narrative of LeBron James, a great husband, LeBron James, a great father, LeBron James, a great philanthropist. He's an activist. He does all this stuff. He was the one that started saying that stuff every single day on ESPN First Take, and he was being kind of funny, but it wasn't funny because, once again, he's the same guy that says, oh, God, forgive me. I have LeBron James as the second greatest player of all time. Oh, forgive me. Strike me down. I'm such a bad person. When we're like, no, Stephen A. Smith, Smith. LeBron James is not the second greatest player of all time. He's not even close to that. But the fact that you keep trying to promote that narrative and keep talking about LeBron James and his off-the-court success is laughable at best. Because once again, these are more narratives, man. LeBron James is the same guy that won't see. You can't be an activist. You can't be someone who's labeled as such when you pick and choose when you want to be an activist. That's not how it works. That's the problem with being an activist. That's what's so hard about being those people, because they have to put themselves out there no matter what. You think that Muhammad Ali was picking and choosing when he was going to be an activist, when he was going to stand up? You think Rosa Parks was picking and choosing when she was going to do something? Martin Luther King, all the great people throughout history, whoever it was, they weren't making different decisions based off of how they felt that day. They had to walk that walk every single day. It's called walking the walk, man, not just talking the talk, man. So where's LeBron James and all these Diddy accusations? Where's LeBron James when he's getting attacked by Shell Sudden and they're trying to tear him down publicly and personally? He has nothing to say about this stuff. Where was LeBron James when Daryl Morey made those comments about China and LeBron James told him to shut up? He doesn't sound like he's informed. Dude, when have you ever been informed about anything? You're not even informed about Malcolm X. You sound ridiculous, man.
I was just getting comfortable. I was about to sit back and let you keep going. Hey, speaking of character, the Everything But the Chip was on last night about the 2001 76ers and Allen Iverson. And I was just thinking how when Allen Iverson came into the league, he was a little bit uncomfortable for a lot of people. You know, things were pretty innocent back then. Cornrows and all, whatever, his crossover and all that, and the practice rant that he did. But he was so respectful to Coach Brown and so humble and giving credit to the coach and giving credit to his teammates. And you were talking about, someone in the comments was talking about coaches can't coach anymore. It's kind of true, but you do have a few cases where coaches do coach. And when you get the team to buy into it, you have success. Like Allen Iverson said, I had to buy into it. I resisted. And when I bought into it, things, improved. God, could you imagine LeBron James ever sounding that humble or giving that sort of credit to his coach or anyone else? I mean, I can't even, using my imagination, picture him saying anything like that. And you're going to call this dude a treasure?
Yeah, listen.
Are you not an Allen Iverson fan? I got you on that.
No,
Are you not?
I thought you were still going there, man. My fault, AOH, man. I didn't want to, talk too much. No, but listen, when you talk about Allen Iverson and you talk about the impact that he had, and you're talking about listening and being coachable to a certain degree. We all know that Allen Iverson had his faults. You talked about the practice rant and all those things. But it's the overall, feeling that people had around Allen Iverson, because he was still respected at the end of the day, man. When we talk on the channels and we talk about respect, and when we talk about LeBron James saying, I want my damn respect, when he's saying that, it speaks to, once again, the feeling that I'm sure that he has overall that he doesn't feel, that people do not really respect him. But why wouldn't people respect him? Because he hasn't carried himself respectably. This is what we're always alluding to. So when you talk about Allen Iverson and you talk about his overall game, and people will knock Allen Iverson, he never won a championship, and Allen Iverson was a ball hog, Allen Iverson was a shot chucker, Allen Iverson this, Allen Iverson that. The one thing that we have to remember about Allen Iverson is, the one thing I remember about him, though, was the man was always being knocked down and he always got back up, man. And that's what I always respected about Allen Iverson, man. And especially during that time of the league when he came in the game, the way the game was played, that's what I always respected about him. You see that key word there, respected. So it wasn't necessarily about, Allen Iverson had to take 30 shots a game to score his 30 points. It wasn't necessarily about, Allen Iverson maybe could have did this a little bit better, or he could have tried a little bit more on defense. He could have listened a little bit more to the coaches. Overall, the feeling, like you mentioned, is that he wanted to win. He was coachable, and he really did have a lot of respect for Larry Brown, and they respect each other, and that relationship was there.
Good morning back to you, researched NBA facts. It's been a little while.
What's up, Jim?
Yeah, this guy has documentary level research in every one of his videos. You just need to put like a woman in a bikini dancing on the screen while you do it. So, but man, I mean, to have a team and go and grab all the footage to go along with the research that you do would be some great content.
That's hilarious, man. Yeah, Jim's the man. He really got some good stuff. I try to share a lot of his videos, you know, when I can, some of the things that I catch, man, because usually when I wake up in the morning, he's got a video up. So, yeah, much respect to my man, research of NBA facts.
The core that I wanted to talk about today is this trend that I see in the NBA that is reflected in society, that as long as these guys make a pretty speech, make some sort of an emotional excuse, whatever they did wrong is okay. And it just keeps getting applied and applied and applied, and it gets worse and it gets worse and it gets worse. And of course, the fragility. I want to talk about the fragility of these guys. You said you didn't see what happened to Embiid. I did, and I take hits like that to the face regularly. I can't stand that when these NBA players actually endure physical contact, they all act like, oh my God, what's happening? This shouldn't be allowed in the sport. And if you're getting injured that easily, you don't deserve to be a pro athlete. Part of being a pro athlete is being tough and durable. We talked about this last week. I was like, why does everybody think all these guys' careers deserve to be drawn out, that they deserve to load manage, that they deserve to take entire seasons off? Because we want to see their greatness extended. We're not looking at greatness. We're looking at fragility, princessism. I just made up a word. And
princessism. I like that.
A little nugget from watching the NBA Cup. Look at Taurean Prince, another ex-LeBron player, enjoying being out of LeBron's shadow. I recall Taurean Prince being labeled as garbage. I did a short on Taurean while people were making fun of the Lakers roster, and that guy can actually ball, and boom, there he is, being an important piece on a winning team. It just, the number of examples of this are pretty astonishing.
Yeah, I mean, listen, AOH, man, you're hitting some really good points right here, man. Let me go back to what you talked about when you talked about the fragility of some of these players. And when we talk about the things that you mentioned, when you said, you know, I played through things like this. When we talk about growing up playing sports, and we're using this as a comparison, we're talking about our life experiences playing sports growing up. Because how are we similar to professional athletes? We're similar to professional athletes. How? Because they're people just like us. So what does that mean? That means that they weren't always professionals. At one point, they were in junior high school. At one point, they were in high school, right? They had to go to college, a lot of these guys. So what does that mean? That same thing that I did. I played in junior high. I played in high school. So what does that mean? We had similar experiences. Like how? Like spraining ankles, hurting your fingers, jamming fingers, breaking fingers, all these things, broken bones, and all this stuff that you go through as a child growing up playing sports. That's the one way that we're similar to professionals. It just so happened that they are more skilled than us. They were either blessed genetically, they were gifted, whatever it was. They had something that we didn't have, so we didn't go as far as they did. But other than that, we understand what it means to get to that level because we tried at those levels, a lot of us. So when you talk about the fragility of Joel Embiid, and you mention guys going down with things that we think that we could play through because we experienced this stuff. So what does that lead us to believe? You're telling me that these guys didn't have to go through sprained ankles and broken bones and all these pains in junior high, in high school, to make it to the NBA? Exactly. That's what it takes to get to the professional league. So we respect those guys for being professionals, but what do we say now? Once they got the money, they all changed. The mindset changed, and you're not playing with the love of the game. You're playing for the money and the fame. You're playing for what you can get from the game, and what you got from the game was the money. We didn't get the money from the game. So when you go outside AOH and you're playing basketball, and I go out to and I'm playing my 35 and up league, and I'm playing ball, I'm doing it for free. I'm doing it because I love the game, because I want to go out there and compete. I want to sweat. I want to go out there and run around. That's why we're playing, and they should be playing for the same stuff. It shouldn't change because you got the money. And the problem is, more often than not, a lot of these guys, they're not going to push through those same bumps and bruises that they would have in high school, that they would have in junior high, when they were coming up playing the game with the love.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, you know what else was in that documentary that made me think about all kinds of lies that the NBA is telling? It showed the path that the Sixers went through to get to the finals. My God, there was some great talent in the NBA. And just to focus on one, Vince Carter was crazy. Vince Carter was crazy. If the NBA had marketed Vince Carter, allowed Vince Carter to form super teams, and made excuses for any failure that Vince Carter ever made, you've got your next face. You know, it's not that the league has to go with LeBron James and he's carried the league. The league carried LeBron and decided that this guy who is not a true leader and doesn't behave well on camera is still our guy. You know, we went that direction and we stuck with it. But the other thing it made me think of was, I bet people couldn't name hardly anyone on Allen Iverson's team or on Vince Carter's team. And today, everyone thinks, oh, you've got to, it's your right to have multiple superstars and all-stars on your team. You should have at least 2 or 3. And LeBron James in that disgusting podcast with JJ, where he lists 3 of the top people in the entire league. And it's like, we just didn't have enough. I'm like, 3 out of freaking 5, dude? 3 out of 5? And everyone else was solid too, but like 3 out of 5 isn't good enough for the GOAT.
Yep.
I'm sorry. I'm going on such long rants. I'm leaving you.
No. Don't keep going, AOH. You're doing your thing. Yo, shout out to Uncut Hoops. Shout out to GoCast. I see him in the comments also, man.
Hey, Uncut. I had a request earlier. I'm making you do my work for me. I was just curious because you're so good at getting this research. I was curious if you had off the top of your head what today's better, more skilled shooters' 3-point percentages look like compared to the past. Obviously, there's a amount that they take now that we have to take into consideration compared to the amount that they took back then. But when we opened up today, I was just saying, my God, if you guys are going to turn this into a 3-point shooting era, could you guys make the 3-pointers? Hey, read some comments. Take over for me. I got to deal with a dog situation. I'll be right back.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. This is what I do. No, but for real, I see you guys in the chat. Once again, man, when we talk about the 3-point shooting, we must remember it's not necessarily about the 3-point shooting that's killing the NBA. We talked about the types of 3-point shots. We talked about the types of players that are taking the 3-point shots. So when you have these kinds of players shooting this many threes in a game, you have what AOH is alluding to, all of these misses. When you talk about Major League Baseball as a sport, when we talk about baseball overall, part of the problem for baseball is what? It's boring for a lot of people to watch it. And why is it boring? Because the guys don't get that many hits that often. You go watch a baseball game, and maybe there's 1 hit for the whole game. Maybe it's a no-hitter. No one even hit the ball. So what is that talking about? Baseball is a sport where you're really good if you do something not even that often. So if you're batting 300, which is not good, then you're amazing. So what does that mean? More often than not, you're watching your favorite player either swing and miss or ground out or hit a pop fly, whatever the case may be, not necessarily getting a home run or getting a hit. It's the same thing in basketball now. What are you getting? You're getting a lot of more bad shots, a lot of longer shots. Guys are missing more. So when you're talking about, hey, this guy's shooting 40% from 3, yes, that might have been great back in the day when the guy was only taking 3. You had to make them. I keep telling people this. If you're only taking 2 or 3 threes a game, you have to make the threes in order to shoot a high percentage. If you're shooting 10, 11 threes a game, then what does that mean? That means you can miss way more to have the same kind of percentage. That's not greatness. That's not skills. That's you shooting more and missing more. That's what that is. That's what we're alluding to, man. This is the problem for the NBA. We're watching these guys miss a lot of shots. They're not making shots because why? They're not shooting high percentage shots, even though these analytic guys will tell us that, oh, they got to shoot the threes are better than the twos. That's not necessarily the case. A layup will always be the 3-point shot. I don't give a damn what people say. Because once again, you're not making those threes. And some of these games, like you guys see, these guys are shooting 50, 60 threes. Maybe they made 15 of them. So you watch your favorite team go out there and chuck a bunch of threes. And my man Uncut Hoops made a point last week about not making adjustments. And I talked about it in my video earlier. Guys will just continue to shoot them. So the teams, for example, they'll shoot 43s, only have made 7 of them. So in the halftime, when they go into halftime, they, hey guys, why don't we cut back on the threes a little bit and work our inside-out game? No, they're gonna come out and shoot more threes.
That's another reason I wanted to talk about Mike Brown. I mean, not Mike Brown. Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ, what's wrong with me? What was Allen Iverson's coach? His name. Anyway, can you imagine if he didn't make adjustments? Because that's exactly what Allen Iverson said. He was like, in order to beat the Pacers that they faced Reggie Miller in the first round, he did some mastermind work and just changed their approach to how they played against the other team, not continue to chuck up threes. I mean, that is entertaining to watch a strategy get changed and unfold in order to defeat the enemy. Just continuing to pray that the total of 3-pointers that you shoot equals a win. How can you cheer for that? I'm sorry. No. AOH is crazy how little your assist breakdown gets pushed. Yeah, and it's not, that video is not doing well. That's a bummer. Did you watch that where I showed the exact same play?
Which one, the Nikola Jokic one?
Yeah, not just Jokic's assist, but then I did a follow-up one showing that they don't give Jokic the assists that they give LeBron.
No, I gotta see that one. I think you told me to check that out. I gotta check that out, man. Because I told you, every time I watch your videos, I gotta make a video in response to your video.
Yeah, well, thanks for the support, man. Jeez.
Hey, you're my boy, man.
I'm going through these comments, see if we got any other super chats I need to call out.
Yeah, shout out to everybody that came through, man. Like I said, we're going to be getting over in like 20, 30 minutes or so, whatever, on the other stream with, Michael Jordan fans are the best and the rest of the crew.
Oh, yeah, Larry Brown. How embarrassing that I dropped the ball on that just then. Yeah, we'll get over to the regular Sunday show. Let's get into my gripe of the day. And I'm going to open up by talking about The Odd Couple and the guy who is the co-host with Rob Parker now. And it's Kelvin something. I thought it was Rob G. Did they change again? Anyway,
wait, it's not Chris Broussard anymore?
No, that got changed at the beginning of this year. And
oh, wow.
So Rob Parker's talking about how gross it is that LeBron James did all this shit to the Lakers and then is trying to escape and disappearing without leave. And Kelvin, I guess he's showing his age. He's showing the fact that he's a LeBron fan and the mentality that comes along with being a LeBron fan. Starts going into, God forbid someone need to take a week off. It's a week. Why are you complaining about him taking a week off? And it just made me think about, as long as you form it in some really dramatic scenario, that's all these people do now. It's like, woe is me. You're being too hard on me. There's no more sense of, no, that's just flat out wrong. You don't do that. You don't behave that way. You don't do that to your team. He didn't just take a week off. He just fucking disappeared. And just, I don't even care what LeBron did. This tendency to make an excuse instead of hold people accountable leads to all sorts of other problems. And I can think of a really early example with LeBron James when Dwight Howard beat him in the 2009 Eastern Conference finals. And LeBron didn't show sportsmanship afterward. And LeBron makes his speech. He's like, oh, anyone that knows me knows that that's just not who I am. It's not bad sportsmanship. It's just not how I do it. I'm like, bullshit. That's exactly what bad sportsmanship is. It's exactly what bad sportsmanship is. The fact that you made a little speech and told the world that that's not bad sportsmanship doesn't get you off the hook. But the league stuck with this guy and continued to stick with this guy. And as time went on, you see more and more people just getting on camera, making empty speeches, saying things that they never back up, saying things to justify their shitty behavior. And we have a society full of these people doing that now. That's my rant. Take it.
No, once again, AOH, you hit some great points again, man, when you're talking about accountability, man. And you're talking about leadership. This is what you're talking about, man. When you're talking about LeBron James, you're talking about quitting on your team. This is what LeBron James does. So you hit it right on the head. This is not a first for LeBron James. You see a lot of times the LeBron James fans, they act as if this is a first for LeBron James. So when you mention that guy saying, oh, this guy can't take a week off, it's not about taking the week off. It's about a bunch of things, man. Once again, this is not the first time. It's a pattern for LeBron James quitting on his team. We must remember, since LeBron James has been in LA, what have we noticed? We noticed there's been times that he's been the team that he's tried to what? Sabotage the team. So what does he do? He fakes an injury or he ducks out on certain games, hoping that the team will lose so that one of two things is going to happen. Everyone's going to promote, oh, look, the Lakers need LeBron James. They lose when he's not there, so he gets all that promotion. And also, the team loses. So it's good for him. It's a win-win for LeBron James, man, because all this does is promote his he needs more help scenario so he can get the ownership to make a trade or, get somebody else in free agency. This is what it's all about for LeBron James. But the same thing remains. It's always the same thing. He's going to quit on you. But not only is he going to quit on you during the season, he's going to quit on you from game to game, from play to play. You hit it on the head when you said he load manages on the court during plays. I mean, how much time does LeBron James spend biting his nails, blowing on his hands, wiping his chest in the middle of the game? It's insane. You had that video that you put out where LeBron James literally got out of the way of playing defense to argue with the referee. The guy dribbled right in between him. And instead of trying to play D or grab the guy and maybe get a foul call to stop the game so he could argue, he said, oh, excuse me, let me let you drive by and let me step to the side so I can continue to argue with the referee. That's laughable at best.
And he's got so many laughable examples. What else that makes me think about is when he quit playing during the playoffs against the Nuggets because he wanted to yell at his bench. Like,
yep.
And this is the mentality problem that I'm referring to. Instead of the entire world being like, are you fucking kidding me right now? You quit playing defense in a playoff game to yell at your bench and the other team scored? We're going to ignore the fact that the team just scored in a close game because you were whining? And you know what LeBron fans and all of that type of mentality person are doing? They're like, oh, it's him, it's them. They should have done it. They should have listened to him. You don't behave that way. You don't behave that way, period. You're not always going to get your way. People aren't always going to do what you want them to do. He made a judgment call. God damn, stop making excuses for shitty behavior.
I mean, if you look at the Lakers, LeBron James has missed the last two games. You think it's a coincidence that over the last two games, the Lakers have held their opponent under 100 points? I don't think it's a coincidence. That's what happens when LeBron James is not out there for 30, 35 minutes goofing the game up. What happens is that your team is more cohesive on the defensive end. So the Lakers in the first game held the Portland Trailblazers to 98 points. That was their second time all season that they held the team below 100. They were giving up like 114 points a game with LeBron James on the court. Over the last two games, they've held the teams to 97.5 points a game. That's called defense. That's called improvement. The problem for the Lakers the other night was the 21 turnovers they had. They had a lot of turnovers. They didn't play a great game. But once again, we've never said that the Lakers are a great team with or without LeBron James. What we've said is that they're better without LeBron James. They're better without him. Doesn't mean they're great or they're a title contender. What I've always said, and I've been 100% on the money so far this season, is that if you took LeBron James off the team, the Lakers would still be competitive, is what I said. And in the two games that they played, they have been much more competitive. And I said also, if you took Anthony Davis off the team and he wasn't on the team, the Lakers are done. It's over.
What was I about to say? Oh, so is he still in a mysterious place? Like no one's tracked him down, or they haven't officially said where he is? I mean, we know he's in Miami, but officially nobody knows where he is.
Yeah, I don't know, man. That's a good question. I don't know. The last reports I heard is that he wasn't with the team. See, this goes to leadership. This is what we're talking about. How much of a leader are you when you just, like, he's literally doing the Dennis Rodman from the Bulls in the second three-peat when the guy was just disappearing, didn't tell anybody nothing, and he just dipped out on the team. LeBron James is supposed to be the leader, and he just disappears.
Actually, I'm gonna call you on that one. Dennis didn't come back on time, but even Dennis's behavior is better than LeBron's. Dennis at least negotiated to get to go on that mini Vegas vacation. Are you talking about that one?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like you said, Michael Jordan had to go and get him because he wasn't bringing his butt back. But see, if you think about that, Michael Jordan wouldn't do that. He's not going to take a trip like that. When people talk about Michael Jordan and he had the Atlantic City thing during the 1993 Eastern Conference Finals, Michael Jordan didn't just disappear and the coaches or the team not know where he was. That's what Michael Jordan alluded to. He was wondering why everyone in the media was harassing him and painting a picture a certain way when he was given permission by the team to go gamble in Atlantic City that night. He wasn't doing anything out of the ordinary or anything against Phil Jackson's wishes or the team. But somehow, some way, he was still being talked about and being blamed for the lack of wins that the Bulls were going on. And you know why that was? Because he was the leader of the Chicago Bulls. That's the accountability that Michael Jordan got put on him. Even though he didn't do anything wrong, he was still being blamed and still being talked about in the media in a bad way because he's not supposed to be doing that as the leader of the Bulls. You're not supposed to be going to Atlantic City and gambling when your team is down 0-2 in the Eastern Conference Finals. But he didn't disappear.
I'm going to do something I don't usually do. I usually resist even acknowledging LeBron people, but this tool bag young disciple is personifying LeBron fans, and he opened up by saying, have you all ever played in the NBA? Okay, well, great. Well, no one has a point if they haven't played in the NBA. You haven't played in the NBA, so you can shut up right now. But Brian Windhorst hasn't played in the NBA. Even Shannon Sharp, an athlete, hasn't played in the NBA. Nick Wright hasn't played in the NBA. All the guys who have played in the NBA but were shooting around in that shooting contest in Vegas don't look like they've ever played in the NBA. So you just stop chasing our excuses.
I mean, think about it. Kendrick Perkins played in the NBA. I want you guys to think about Ryan Hollins played in the NBA. I could go down a myriad list of players that played in the NBA that don't know a damn thing about basketball. It don't necessarily mean I could beat them one-on-one. I've never claimed on my channel to be able to beat LeBron James one-on-one or that I'm greater than any of these guys. What I've said is I know the history of the game. I know the game better than a lot of these guys do.
All of you, go into the bathroom and look in the mirror and repeat, my life is about excuses. My life is based upon Idol's career is based upon excuses. And I have applied that to my own life and all of my shortcomings. I will simply make a speech filled with excuses. That's what you're about.
Round the money. That's why I hate that narrative. That's what a lot of times Gilbert Arenas tries to do. Whenever he tries to come at the fans, he tries to make this narrative that because we're just fans and we never played in the NBA, that we don't have anything to say or, we don't know the game or, things of that nature. And I've said it, and we've educated him many times. So once again, another example of someone who's played in the NBA, doesn't know a damn thing about the NBA's history, doesn't know a damn thing about what they're talking about.
Guys had to learn.
JJ Redick played in the NBA. Bronny James is playing in the NBA.
Yeah. Hey, but his jersey sales are high, so you can't crap on him, apparently.
Yeah, because his dad's buying all his jerseys.
By the way, how horrifying. I mean, that says everything there is to be said about society, that you buy the jerseys of somebody who is a basketball player who can't play basketball very well. Good for you. You please wear that jersey. Wear that jersey in public, you freaking clowns, so that we can all tell you apart. When we go to the pickup courts, we know which court we can go and actually play basketball, and which court's going to be a bunch of whiny bitches making excuses the entire game and not run at all. I mean, you guys aren't in shape. You guys spend the entire game fucking complaining about rules that you don't understand.
I mean, another great point, AOH. You made another great point, man. When you talk about the kinds of people that are supporting these guys, when you talk about not holding your favorite player accountable, just because you like somebody and you want to root for them and they're your favorite player, doesn't mean that they're above the law, so to speak, or they're above accountability, or they're above being an idiot, or above being stupid, or above acting like a fool. You have to hold them accountable. You should expect more from these guys if they're your favorite players. That's why I always say I'm not ashamed to root for Michael Jordan or have been a fan of Michael Jordan or to have posters on my wall of Michael Jordan. I'm not embarrassed by that. And why is that? Because everything that Michael Jordan stood for, the way that he carried himself. When you make those comments that you make about, certain guys wearing certain jerseys and then speaking to them, and absolutely on the money. If you go to the court or you walk around town, you go to the mall, wherever you are, and you see someone wearing a James Harden jersey, what are you going to think immediately? I'm going to think you're some goof, that you don't know the game of basketball and you don't respect the actual game, because we all know that James Harden doesn't respect the actual game and his overall game is fraudulent. So that's what I'm going to think in my mind if I see you wearing a James Harden jersey. It's just the way it goes, man. If I see you wearing a Ben Simmons jersey, am I going to think that you're a fan of the NBA, that you really know the game, that you've been an old school basketball fan? Hell no, I'm not going to think of that you at all. If I saw you wearing a Joel Embiid jersey, am I going to think that you respect the game? A Zion Williamson jersey or any of these other goofs out there, man?
This is going to sound like blasphemy because these guys must go through something. They must learn basketball at some point in their life. But NBA players now are starting to look like they actually don't know the game. Like the blasphemy I was going to say is, I may not have played in the NBA, but we're reaching the point where it looks like I understand the game better than they do. And it's also a matter of just how things have changed, because that Trae Young shot that we talked about at the beginning, that would get you benched, when I was being coached. You would do suicides like the entire week after doing something that shitty. That is a dumb basketball play. That is a bad basketball play. And I know bronze sexuals are going to say, it's 3 points. 3 points is worth more than 2. That play was worth 0 when it would have been a guaranteed 2. Don't act like you people understand basketball. That was terrible. And that's what NBA players are doing regularly, making terrible decisions and looking like they don't understand team ball, with the exception of a few teams. And people tune in to watch that sort of ball play.
Yo, AOH, man, you're making some great points here, man. When you're talking about that kind of stuff, man, we're talking about the standards that's not being upheld here, man. When you talk about guys dribbling all over the court because they think they can do that, when you talk about guys shooting because they think they can do that, but they can't really do that, it's the standard. When you talk about the coaches taking a guy out because he took a bad shot, right? That's called accountability. You're being held to a certain standard. That's not your role. That's not your job. That's why we talk all the time. When I was growing up watching the game in the 80s and the 90s, to be called or considered a role player wasn't a negative thing. You needed role players to win championships. You needed good role players. You needed guys doing their jobs in order to be a great team. When we talked about Michael Jordan and all the great players, the Larry Birds, the Magic Johnsons, everyone out there, the role players, it's the guys around them. It's James Worthy's, right? It's the Joe Dumars. It's the other guys, the Scottie Pippens that we mentioned, right? The Rodmans, the Tony Kukoses. These other guys play their roles. And the great players allow their teammates to play those roles. So when you talk about the coaches yanking a guy or putting you on the bench because you took a bad shot, they also took you at the game if you saw a 7-footer out there trying to dribble the ball like a point guard and running the break. Now, yes, there may have been certain guys that had some athleticism that may have had those skills to do that, but by and large, that was not your role to do it. Even if you thought you could dribble down the court full court, the coach wasn't going to hear those things. That keeps in touch with the balance of the game, the beauty of the game, because you're holding a certain standard.
For all the LeBron fans out there, it's your lucky day. I am sending out a new t-shirt and it says, check my excuses. So you guys can just wear that when you go play basketball and no one will even argue with you or expect you to be able to play well, because we'll all know that you have a bag of excuses ready to give for at any moment. Uh, we got a couple of minutes. There's one other thing in that documentary that stood out to me, and it was that Theo Ratliff got traded, and that kind of made the team sad, but it was the right move. And you know, we had the Bill Cartwright trade that Michael Jordan didn't really like, but said he understood. How did we? And all these guys that were sad about it said, "We understand it's a business." How did we get to the point where today we have so many people saying, "Oh no, you owe those players. How dare you?" You know, all the people that came to Klay Thompson's defense were like, "Oh no, you owe him. You owe him." Well, which is it? Is it a business and it's kind of harsh and cutthroat, or is it, oh, we owe these people? All right, which one is it?
Yeah, I mean that's a tough question. I think that may require more time than we have, AOH, because we got to get ready to go on the other show here soon, guys. But when you talk about Klay Thompson, let's say for that example that you gave, to me, when they talk about, oh, you know, this or that, I don't believe that the teams or the organizations owe the players money. I don't believe that, oh, let's pay Klay Thompson X amount of dollars at the end of his career because we owe him that because what he did for the franchise. I don't believe that's true. But I do believe that the organizations, the teams, the people of those organizations, if there's some kind of personal relationship there, if there's some level of I don't even know how to really say it. There are some players are more personal. So, like, for example, I've heard that Klay Thompson, he knew the names of like all the employees or a lot of the employees around the arena there so that they played at. Not many players have that kind of relationship. So if he had a relationship like that, then maybe yes, the organization owes him something as far as like, hey, Klay, listen, man, we're trying everything we can to make this work here. But the money shouldn't be the thing. It should be the
Yeah,
other things. You know what I'm saying? Like, to me,
yeah,
yes.
yeah. Well, we'll call it. I'm gonna get my headset in, and I'll join Dart's show while I do my second run of the morning. But thanks for doing an early morning rant, and thanks everybody who tuned in.
Yo, AOH, man, it's always a pleasure. Like I said, everyone in the chat, thank you very much, guys, for always coming through and supporting our channels. I know that sometimes we don't get to read everyone's comments or, you know, shout you guys out, but we really do appreciate, you know what I'm saying? And it's truly humbling to have all you guys out here and participate in these chats and in these shows. So thanks to all you guys out there, man. I really appreciate it a lot. And I'll be over there on the Michael Jordan Fans of the Best in a couple minutes. I hope you guys come on over to that show, man. We're going to keep it going on. But once again, dissolve the video footage, AOH. Thank you very much again, man. I had a great time with you, man. And I'll catch you all later on.
Everybody go to my homepage and watch the video at the top that has LeBron and Jokic's faces on it. And it shows blatant evidence that the league is favoring LeBron James in stats. All right, everyone. That's it. We'll see you on the next show.